It's Don't Stream and Drive Day in the UK, and it's over to Neil Sargent TCS as we start to wind up the day, or wind down the day. Neil, it's over to you.
Wind down, I think. Yeah, wind down is a good idea, Stephen. It's been a long, long day. But a good day. We've had lots of stuff. There's Jenny dropped in. Good evening, Jenny. Lots of things going on, lots of content going out. The latest update with regard to how we're doing, we shall go over and click the button now. And what I'll do is I'll give two figures actually. The first figure, if we think on how we normally do Don't Stream and Drive, where we count the stats for the day itself. Previously using the Thunderclap, which was a massive tool that enabled us to sort of get a lot of people to sign up, and we generally hit sort of 19 to 20 million people throughout that day. Without the Thunderclap this year, we've actually done exceptionally well because we're currently at 14.6 million. So almost without the Thunderclap, we're doing it nearly as well as we have done previously. But I think one of the things I said in the other broadcast, and one of the things I looked at doing last year, was that the run up to the campaign is almost as important as the day itself, because it's getting people involved and getting the hashtag some traction and getting to talk about it. So the stat that I'm really interested in, which is the one for the last 30 days, currently stands at 23.2 million potential impressions, just short of 3,500 tweets from nearly 1,400 contributors. So that's absolutely remarkable. I'm thrilled because without the Thunderclap, I was really quite concerned about where it was going to go and how it was going to be, and it's actually done stunningly well. I'm really pleased. And of course, that's just Twitter.
Yeah, brilliant news.
There's stuff on Facebook. There's all the views that we've had on Facebook.
They're still rolling through at the average of 2 a minute.
Yeah. It's remarkable, isn't it? So just have to hope that that's where we go. But as I was saying to you guys just before we came online, we tend to get a very big burst. Don't Stream and Drive Day has always followed the same pattern. We get a big burst in the morning when people are really enthusiastic to get involved and want to do stuff. Then we had the Thunderclap, so we get a big peak surge around lunchtime, a big peak at lunchtime that we used to get. And then it would generally sort of level out and then pick up again early evening and then start to tail off again towards 9 o'clock. At the moment, even without the Thunderclap, it has followed that same sort of pattern. So all we need now to finish off the day really well is just to get the motivation behind people, just to sort of say, I've done 1 or 2 today, but let's just do 1 or 2 more, just push that message out, just a few retweets, or just sort of make up your own message, or copy instead of retweeting the message, copy it, paste it, and post it. That way it's not a retweet, it's an individual unique post. And let's have that final push just to bring the campaign day home.
And Eve has joined us, Eve Wakeford.
Good evening, Eve. Welcome along. Have we got the option to bring people in on this? Is that something that
yes,
we
can do
if we have to? Yeah. I'm just thinking if the opportunity presents. But I think, we've spent all day talking about Don't Stream and Drive, and I've gone dry in the throat talking about so much stuff today on the 2 previous broadcasts. So if we've got people who've got questions, who are watching, who've got questions, they can ask them and we'll answer them and talk around those subjects. Or if they want to come on, well, and they're people that we know and they want to come on, well then let's bring them on and do it that way as well. I suppose it could be good.
Sounds good. And I've just posted the guest link. All you need to do is click that link. You'll be asked to get your camera ready, and you can use your existing camera, no problem with that. Microphone on, earbuds, must have earbuds on, and then you can come in and talk to Neil, myself and John.
Okay. So, otherwise, we're doing pretty well. Again, some great support from road safety organisations and the police around the UK, mostly officers and neighbourhood policing, road policing teams. A number of forces have jumped on, not as many as last year, but that was to be expected because of the way the Thunderclap was run last year, where we managed, if you remember, we used a map and we coloured the mapping as each force signed up, which sort of it was a good thing, but it also put a little bit of pressure on some of the organisations that might have felt a bit uncomfortable with the way that was run. So I'm not surprised that we've had a few less forces involved. But the neighbourhood teams and the local road policing teams do get involved, and there's a lot of individual officers that are roads policing officers that are getting behind it as well. Just messing with this light here, see, it's driving me nuts, this. Just trying to get it out of the shot without... There we go. So it's all sort of going very well. There's some great supporters, a lot of unexpected support in areas and from businesses that I've had no contact with, but they just feel inclined to share the message and post some content, which is just fantastic. You two guys, of course, who've steered me true again all day and kept me on track. And when I run out of things to say, you've always got something to fill the gaps. And away we go. It's been a good day.
Totally agree. And for my part, I enjoy actually helping and promoting something that I do believe is important. And it's just great to be alongside yourself and John.
4 years now, isn't it? 16, 17, 18, 19.
That's it, the 4th year. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So yeah, we've as I said, we over the 3 years prior, we've averaged about 20 million reach each day, which is about sort of 60 million across those 3 days. But I think the more important factor is the run-up that we've talked about. And the run-up last year was huge because we were pushing the Thunderclap from January. But that's the same with the figures this year, the difference between 14 and 23 million. So overall, I'm quite content, particularly with the fact that the campaign runs all year round. That we've hit well in excess of 100 million people since the campaign started in 2016. It's Penny. Thank you, Penny. It's been good so far. Still a little more time for people to push content out, and then we can all wrap it up and go home and have a glass of wine.
Indeed. I want to thank the bot people who joined up on Sergeant TCS's messenger system. And there were 44 of you, so thank you for that. Between you, you sent out 110 tweets, so thank you for that, and shared Facebook posts throughout the day. And basically, the brilliant thing about it is that you can do it all again in 2020, because we'll keep your names. We won't send you any spam or anything between now and then, but you're ready to go next year as well. So thank you for joining. And if you still want to join, then just message Sergeant TCS on the page, say hello. And if you want to tweet some more, say hello and then just type the word tweet. And that will give you 3 tweets to actually send out, because the day's not over yet. Now, talking of the day not being over, if you've missed the earlier shows and you want to catch them on radio, Ted, then you can go to the link I'm just posting now, and the show will be going out live on radio 8 p.m. tonight, 7 a.m. in the morning, and 3 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. That's the first show from this morning, and you can listen to it as you're doing something else, because we don't want you to be, well, you can listen to it in the car actually, but that's another story. We shouldn't say that, should we? Is listening okay in the car?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just like listening to the radio, isn't it? It's exactly the same sort of thing. So it's all good stuff.
Okay.
United World Radio. So there we go.
Yeah. It's been, I mean, we started broadcasting at 10 o'clock this morning, and we've kept going throughout the day with the show at 2 o'clock as well. Anyway, just to catch up with Corinda. Corinda's saying, I was out and about on the road and I saw a person in the car who was on the phone and driving. Right. So the question is from Corinda, if you actually see somebody, what should you do? Is there anything you can do?
Right. This is something that was asked when I spoke to the presenter on BBC Radio Stoke yesterday, and saying, what can people do? Is it something that we'd encourage people to do? And I said it's a tricky area, and the first thing that I'd like to say is that the way that people generally see the ability, the way that people actually think that catching somebody doing this, and to capture somebody doing this, is to use their phone. So the last thing we need is somebody driving using their phone to capture somebody doing something they shouldn't be doing, because then we're just, two wrongs don't make a right, do they? It's just ridiculous. The second thing that I would say is that people, in my experience as a traffic policeman of 7 years, some time ago now, but as a traffic officer when I was out on the streets, drivers do not generally take very kindly to being told that they've done something wrong, or feel threatened that they might be doing something wrong by somebody who's filming them. So if you are, how can I give an example? If you were stood on the footpath and the car is there in the traffic and you just stand there filming them, and there's the potential for that person to become agitated, the last thing we need is a road rage situation. The last thing you need as the person who's trying to do the right thing by highlighting this is to end up in a confrontation with somebody. So it needs to be careful. But the example that I used on the radio program on BBC Radio Stoke was that West Midlands Police run an operation called Operation Top Deck, and when they run that, they have police officers and or PCSOs on the top deck of a double-decker bus, and they film and capture people whilst they're using their phones from the bus. So you're sort of quite safe on the bus. So if you just happen to be sat on the bus on your way to work one day and the bus pulls up alongside somebody who's on their phone at the traffic lights, and you start filming them from your bus window, and then the car pulls away from the traffic lights and is still on the phone, and the bus stays level with them, and eventually you get the registration number and the car goes, well then why the heck not? Why the heck not? The other way to do it, obviously, is like the ways that I've done it in the past, where I've identified people through social media, looked at the broadcast, worked out who they are, where they are, and either challenged them directly afterwards or notified the local police and said, I think you need to be having a word with this person, or I've done it myself. Recently I had a broadcast that I noticed it was in my own forces area, and the driver said that he worked for a certain company. He could have been bluffing, he could have been lying, who knows? But I rang the company, spoke to them. They were a little bit cagey at first, but said, I think we might have somebody that works for us by that name. Put me in touch with HR. HR said, I explained what I was about and what I was doing. I wasn't trying to prosecute them, but I just wanted to speak to them and advise them. They were quite happy with that. This chap rang me up, And I spoke to him and advised him about his behaviour. And he said, you know what, I didn't even really think about it being a problem. It never crossed my mind. But you're right. And off we go. So we've done things like that. In previous years, I've seen something and tracked down the company by the sweatshirt that the driver was wearing. Tracked down the company in the West Midlands and said, have you got a driver doing this that's doing that run today? The driver was carrying a high value load, broadcasting her location, telling people what the load was, showing where she was, and told them where she was going. The transport manager was mortified because he said, well, if the client finds out that our drivers are doing that and putting their load at risk, we'll lose the contract. That employee was sacked outright the following morning, which, you know, wasn't at my suggestion. It's not something that I like to see somebody losing their job about stuff, but it shows, you know, how you can capture footage without putting yourself at risk, because that's the important thing. Never ever do something by trying to do the right thing, put yourself at risk from somebody who may not take kindly to the action that you're taking.
Well, that's a problem. I mean, we talked this afternoon about why do people do it? Why do people live stream and drive? And we couldn't, between the three of us, actually come up with a reason.
Yeah.
Which means that it must be, to us, it's illogical, or it's logical not to stream and drive because you're distracting yourself.
Yes.
Old thing now that somebody thinks it's clever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a really interesting sort of conversation topic, this, as to what is it that makes people do it. And you can sort of, I run a small business which I am slowly but surely developing for my retirement as a backup plan for anything else that I might end up doing. And it involves working with cars. It involves sometimes dealing with some very high-end cars. And I took a video, sat on the drive of this car the other day, which sort of panned from the dashboard and then across to the big start button in the center of the dashboard. This amazing sound as the car starts up, and then back to the dashboard with the rev counter. People who like cars will have gone, oh yeah, I like that noise of it. And it's interesting for people within that sphere that I'm operating within. But as a general day-to-day sort of thing, if you then put that into the context of somebody who's doing stuff and then goes on to drive, you think, well, why would you do that? And I shared a Snapchat thing just before we came live on air, and it's a driver on the M62. I'm not sure. I think they might be in Greater Manchester's area as opposed to into West Yorkshire. And they've got their phone in their hand, and it shows the steering wheel and the speedo, and they're obviously holding the phone quite low, and then it just sort of peeps up over the steering wheel a little bit, and then it sort of comes down and it goes around, and it shows nothing. There's no conversation, and I'm not advocating that if you're going to stream and drive, make it entertaining and make it worth visually exciting, because I don't want people sort of streaming and driving at all. But you look and you think, what purpose does that serve? What is the reason behind that broadcast? What are you trying to convey with that broadcast? And I just can't see it. I can't see what it is that they're trying to do. And the tweet that I put out, it says, you can just imagine the conversation at the funeral. You know, how did he or she die? How did he die? He said, well, he was recording video footage whilst he was driving of his steering wheel and his speedo.
You can't even see the speedo on it, though, can you?
What? Yeah.
You can't even see the speedo.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, and you just think, it's such, I mean, we said this earlier on, it's such, the only word I can use is inane drivel. It really is rubbish content, and you think you might as well, broadcast the kettle boiling or broadcast paint drying or the grass growing or whatever it happens to be, because it's no better or no different, is it? It's just the dullest, most uninspiring content ever. And as we said, I can't get my head around it.
He must have been in Greater Manchester because the sign was for Bury.
Right, yeah. I think it is lower down. I think it's on its way towards West Yorkshire, but not quite got there yet. So, but it's a remarkable thing where people are broadcasting this stuff that's got absolutely no value to anybody at all. It does. Jenny's right. It beggars belief. You just sort of think, what are you doing?
You're still getting some really good names tweeting. I mean, you've got your friend Paul Cording. You've got Road Safety UK.
Yep.
Rob Stevens, PC Rob Stevens, BCH Operational Support Unit, and All Star Fuel Card.
Blimey, there's a new one. All Star Fuel Card. That one.
What did they say? All Star Fuel Card. Using social media and streaming apps can be over 3 times more dangerous than driving while intoxicated. Don't stream and drive day.
Yeah, I mean, Staffordshire Police have just put something else out again, so that's their second one of the day, which is great. And there's something nice about that and reassuring about that, because Staffordshire Police and I have had a rocky relationship over the years with their Christmas campaign, not Christmas gone, but the Christmas before, where I sort of openly challenged them about stuff that they were doing. But that's great, and it's fantastic support, and it's just it's just amazing.
Sergeant Richard Slater.
Yeah, I've seen him coming in.
Some great stuff coming through still.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. There's all sorts of things that come through, and you think, who are they? And you have to look and find out who they are. I mean, Lima Health.
I saw that one as well and thought, what?
Forgive me if somebody from Lima Health who works for them or whatever, or has got access to their social media, is in the room and they're listening, but it says Northwest of England, Lima Health. They've got 727 followers. What is it? Working with the menopause, clinicians, employee education, health risk assessment. So they're doing important stuff. But it always astonishes me to go, because you look and you think, where did you get the information? How have you got involved? What's the story that's led to that tweet? It's really quite interesting. So
we had the University of West Scotland.
Yeah, they're great.
An hour ago.
They're great. They've supported for a number of years now, and I think that's really important, because one of the greatest misconceptions about streaming and driving and the people that stream and drive is that there's a heck of a lot of people go, oh, it's the remit of the young, and it's the younger people that are doing this, and from my experience, it is, but it's not just the young people. In fact, that probably sounds that sounds worse than I actually mean it. That's not how I meant it to come across. You probably think that because it's social media, it is younger people that are predominantly doing it, and it's not. It's people from every single age group, that do this. I've seen people who are, my age and beyond, and elderly preachers in America who are preaching while they drive and quoting scripture, and you're like, what are you doing? And it's that old phrase that comes up, isn't it, where it says, if you want to talk to God, pray, but if you want to meet him, text and drive. And
I've got 3 of these supposedly age group that would be doing it. I've got a 32-year-old, a 30-year-old. Neither of them would even think of streaming and driving. They're not particularly. They're both on social media. It was bad. And then the youngest is 28. She was 28 the other day. She would never stream and drive because she
Yeah.
works in the hospital. So
Oh, there you
she's
go.
in.
Exactly. She knows what it's about. But I'm just having a look at the tweets here and retweeting a few as we're talking.
Is there such a thing as trending on Twitter still?
There is a thing as trending on Twitter, yeah. But I find trending on Twitter to be a bit of a mixed bag of uncertainty, shall we say? Because I have used the Twitter app itself natively for quite a few years now. Prior to that, I used to use something called Echo Phone, and there are a number of other third-party apps that you can use for Twitter. And you'd often find that one platform tells you that you're trending and the other one says, no, you're not. And I haven't seen it trending on my timeline today at all.
Okay.
But other people have sent messages saying, oh, look, you're trending already. But if I just look, I mean, I don't think we're getting anywhere near enough tweets at the moment to trend them, but in the top 20 on mine for Twitter,
Right.
no. Somebody called Robert Snodgrass is at number 20, and it goes all the way up to Phil Jones at number 1. I've no idea who Phil Jones is, but there's a picture of a footballer, so I assume it's something to do with that.
Right. Okay.
So Paris is the number 1 trend where I'm in Brum.
Yeah. So it's interesting, isn't it? I think it can change by location. I mean, my Twitter settings are set to sort of say, tell me, this light is driving me nuts. You know, it's set for the United Kingdom, but I still think perhaps it's regionally biased to a degree. You know,
mine's
if, like,
set for
say,
Birmingham.
yeah, if you've got Notre Dame, yeah.
Watford versus Arsenal, and then Jones, whoever he is, at 77.1 thousand tweets. Barnum, Korg, Wayne Hennessy. He's the idiot who doesn't know what a Nazi salute looks like. But yeah.
Okay.
Right.
We have a comment from Pam O'Donnell, which I'll read out, and I think it's pertinent to everything that you've done today, Neil.
Absolutely, that's awful.
And thank you for this. Sadly, my husband and 5-year-old were killed by a drug driver, so thank you for trying to spread awareness on distracted driving. And
that's awful, Pam. That's just awful. My heart goes out to you. It's one of those things, isn't it? And sadly, Pam isn't on her own. There are so many families that lose people on the roads through drink drive, through drug drive, through distracted driving, and I think I can't tackle every single road safety topic to the extent that I do Don't Stream and Drive, but nationally there are individuals, there are organizations and things that are doing things, and it's all the cumulative effect of everybody doing something. It all helps towards greater road safety, but it's just heartbreaking. I mean, it takes me back to when we had Blab, and we did some a discussion on Blab, and Paul Cording arranged for one of his friends to come in that he knows, and they lost their child to a drink driver on the Isle of Wight, and he came and spoke to us, and it was utterly heartrending. It was so heartbreaking just listening to this story, and that's the trouble. It breaks my heart sometimes to see another family on the television or another family on the radio sort of saying that they're going to launch a campaign to try and increase road safety because they don't want another family to go through the heartbreak that they've gone through because of what's happened. And you just like, you know, it keeps repeating itself because people continue to die on our roads through all sorts of reasons, but there are so many things that can be avoided, and drink drive and drug drive and distracted driving are all avoidable, and it's just awful. It really is. My heart goes out to Pam. It's just dreadful.
The Jones, by the way, that's trending is a Sun campaign. Yes, the Sun newspaper.
Ooh, red tops.
Against Phil Jones being right back at tonight's match at the Barcelona.
Well, there you go.
Peter Tierney is trying to join us.
All right.
Okay, and Peter, if you can hear me, I can see that you're trying to join, but I can't see your camera. If you could go out again and refresh, when you come in, you'll see a cog which allows you to select your camera. Can you refresh the browser and select the camera and then come in, and I'll bring you on screen to chat with Neil.
That'll be great. Peter's a lovely, lovely guy.
Right, and comment from
Father Peter T.
All right. Comment from Jenny. This is back earlier. You're so right. I had watched a 50-year-old earlier driving her horse box and streaming live, and she dropped the phone and carried on driving.
It's unbelievable what people will do, and it's always astonished me sometimes. It takes me back to the case we were talking about earlier with the Lamborghini and the guy that I prosecuted down in London when I caught the evidence 200 miles away from where the offence was being committed. But it's surprising what people, it almost seems sometimes as though they stop thinking, because if they actually stopped and thought about it, they'd go, oh, hang on a minute, I'm committing an offence, I'm sharing that on the internet, I've just shown my face to everybody, I've just let everybody know where I am, and you think I mean, can you ever imagine a situation where a burglar has a GoPro that streams live as they're breaking into somebody's house, and you say, right, I'm on Acacia Avenue, I'm just going up to number 52, go down the side and in the back. And you think, it's bizarre, isn't it, that people will share so much information?
That's true. And we're joined by...
There's Peter.
Peter.
Oh.
Good evening. Nice to see you.
And you?
How are you?
I'm grand. How are you?
I'm super. I'm tired. It's been a long day, but it's been a good day. So just sort of doing this final broadcast and then a final push on Twitter, and then it will be time for a glass of wine and feet up and stop. But nice to have you in here.
Nice to be here. Thanks. I've just come in myself, so I've just had having my first glass of wine. That's great.
Good man. Oh. See, I didn't dare because I thought, fuck, I've been so tired. But have you got any questions, Peter, from today, or anything that you've seen, anything that you're thinking?
Well, it's just great to see such a successful campaign again. I know you put a lot of work into it every year, so it's good to see it being supported so well. Yeah,
thank you. It always takes me by surprise, it takes me by surprise a little, and it also a little bit humbling sometimes when you see how many people are prepared to sort of give up some of their time to help spread the message, and you can't really express how grateful you are to them. And the difficult thing is you never really know what the results are going to be. One of the things that they used to say to us when I joined the police, they said, you'll never know how much crime you prevent just by simply being somewhere. Mm-hmm. If you're parked up in your car on the high street because you've just given somebody a ticket and you're writing up your pocketbook, you'll never know whether you've just prevented the bank robbery because they've driven past and gone, oh, blam, the police are here, we'll have to, cancel or do something else. You'll never know. And it's the same with Don't Stream and Drive. You'll never really know how successful your interventions are unless you've had direct sort of connection with somebody where you've influenced them and changed their behavior and they communicate that back to you, which often happens with the people that I challenge and speak to direct. But when it's just pushing the message, you never really know the impact of what's being said, but people are prepared to give up their time and share it anyway, which is just fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll have another look now and see where we're up to. just refresh this page because I know while we've been talking, there's quite a few tweets gone out. Yep, we're now up to 23.6 million potential impressions on there. So
Wow.
that's doing remarkably well. So pleased. So
That's brilliant, Neil. Well done.
it's all good stuff. It's all good stuff. And, and in many ways, I look at how much the message gets spread and how many organizations get involved that I'm not expecting, and how many organizations that I'd really love to be involved that don't. And it's their choice, and that's how it works. But you think it makes me think that really, we've done amazing with 23 million potential impressions, but it could be so much more if other organizations got involved as well and jumped on board with it. But it's very hard to get that buy-in. And sometimes that's a little bit disappointing, but I've sort of grown used to that now, because the campaign is supported every year. The process I have to go through in order to do the campaign now is that I coordinate with the National Roads Policing Intelligence Forum, which is an arm of the National Police Chiefs Council that sits underneath the authority of Chief Constable Bangham, who is the National Police Chief's road policing portfolio holder. It gets a bit complicated, this. Well, I coordinate a date with them to make sure that it fits with them, it doesn't clash with anything they're doing, or as in this year and 2017, it's been deliberately arranged to fall right within a mobile phone campaign that's running nationally. So it complements that and works alongside that. Once I've got that date preliminarily agreed, I then have to go to work to Cheshire Constabulary and say, here's the date I've got. I want to run the campaign. Can I do it? Our professional standards team look at that and have always said yes. So I have the support of the command team immediately through that. And then the campaign goes, then it gets coordinated and I start pushing the message and it goes ahead. And I have to go through that process every year. But getting other forces to sign up and support, even with NPCC endorsement, is still very difficult because they've still also got their own messages to push out, crime or more important matters that have happened during the day that they've got to get the information out there, and they can be very selective about what they do and what they don't push. But that's, the peaks and troughs and the rough and the smooth, but I can't complain because we've done so well this year. It's been brilliant.
Great.
It's been really good.
Well done, man.
Thank you. Okay. So I think should just say one final time as well. In fact, I'm just getting a whole bunch of emails coming in again from the management software and data software that there's somebody that I should mention, actually. I said before, we've had another tweet by Staffs Police. That's another 120,000 followers that a message has gone to. Sue Butcher, who's given me access through her business Just Practicing Limited, has allowed me access to her statistical software and given me a login. That's where I'm getting all this information on the metrics from. And there's some emails coming through from that now. So Staffs Police, but there's one here from a lady that I'm sure Jon and Steven have probably heard of. I'd like to think so anyway, which is a lady by the name of Krishna Day.
Yes.
Yeah, it's about nigh on 40,000 followers on Twitter. Yeah.
Krishna is her and a guy called Stuart run a broadcast on Facebook. It was every Sunday. I think they've scaled it back a bit now. It might be every other week or something, but called Live Stream Insiders, and they are always talking about the latest breaking news with the live streaming community and things that are happening. And they have both been massive supporters of Don't Stream and Drive over the years. Their most recent broadcast on Facebook was last Sunday, where they gave a mention to Don't Stream and Drive and talked about me and the campaign and what it's all about. And so there's somebody else to thank. Thanks, to Sue again for the access to the software, and thanks to Krishna for all her support over the years. She's been fantastic. And it's one of those things. There's just so many people. Stephen, John, Krishna, Paul Cording, Chris Harris from Norfolk, Lee Thomas, Constable Chaos, Rob Stevens. There are just so many people. You reach that point, you say, there's just too many people to thank. You just can't get around everybody. But you're grateful to every single person that puts out one tweet or 15. You're grateful to everybody.
We've just had Sinclair Audi there in South Wales, so it's really getting around the UK.
Yeah. So I've not seen anything yet from, which is a little bit disappointing, but I've not seen anything yet from Joel Comm or Brian Fanzo. And they were so good, they came back to me really quickly and said, yeah, we'll do something. So let me just have a quick scroll through Joel's feed.
Yeah. You do have the fact that they're 5 hours behind us. So
yeah.
So
it could be it could be that they've scheduled it for a certain time in their day, which means it'll come out while we're in bed. But that is fine, and we'll see where that goes. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. It's just one of those things. But
heads will roll. I've heard of them. I mean, the thing is that you are now across 24 different time zones. There's a 36-hour window for people to actually get involved and definitely. To tweet and share. And those who have, I mean, they've done an amazing job today, because, as you say, the figures are, despite the absence of Thunderclap, tremendous.
I mean, it's quite difficult, I think, sometimes as well to get in some of the American organisations. I mean, if you think that we've got 43 forces in England and Wales, and it's very difficult to get those on board, but my force, Cheshire, is one of the smallest in the UK. But we've got somewhere in the region, well, I was going to say 2,000, but that was probably before all the cuts. But we're under 2,000 officers, but how many, I couldn't put my finger on. But some of the agencies that you're dealing with in America might have 30 sworn officers. So they're very small, tiny departments. But we've certainly got a lot of information out into America. The Eau Claire PD in Wisconsin have said that they'll support. So hopefully we'll see something from them. And then we've got Mike Byers, iSocial Cop, who is over at the Azusa PD in California. We've got iDigital Clop. You'll never forgive me for that. iDigital Cop, Mark Marty, who's at the Montebello Police in California. We've also had contact with the Miami PD, Winter Park PD in Florida, Shakopee PD in Wisconsin, Mountain View Police Department, and there's also another one that I'm trying to think of the name, and I can't remember. Begins with M, but it's very difficult, and they're small agencies. But California, they may bring their messages on much later on. So we'll just have to see. Fingers crossed. Anything that adds to the messages is great, because ultimately, the campaign Don't Stream and Drive is massively centered on the UK, but that's because that's where I run it from. But distracted driving is an international problem, without a shadow of a doubt. Much as drink drive is an international problem, distracted driving is the same, and as we talked about earlier, it's rife in New South Wales, in Australia, and in Australia. I pick out New South Wales, but in Australia itself, there is a heck of a lot of distracted driving and mobile phone use. There is also, a huge problem in America. Mitch Jackson in California, streaming lawyer. He is absolutely brilliant at promoting the messages of distracted driving. Has been a great supporter over the years, and I'm going to say he sent me his book recently, which I can't quite see without sort of causing mayhem. But he's done a book on social media and stuff, which is great. But he's a massive supporter as well, and so there are huge issues in America with distracted driving, but sometimes it's difficult to sort of bring that home, because it's almost like we know that that's a problem, but it's not on our agenda to deal with at the moment because we're looking at this or that, and then it becomes harder to sort of get that buy-in for one day. But I will take anything and everything that I get. As you said earlier, Stephen, every tweet counts. They all count.
Joel's, by the way, in Denver, Colorado, so he's actually 7 hours behind us.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So, yeah. There we go.
There we go. So we started at 10, and you've been going. You started way before 10. What time did your day start, Neil?
I was up at 7, and I don't think I tweeted immediately, but I sort of started retweeting stuff straight away, showing what other people were posting, and then moved it along from there. Transmap UK 10 hours ago. It's trending in here. So it's I find trends, I tend to treat them a little skeptically, as we discussed earlier. I'm not sure, but anyway, I always look and think there's often the objective is say, let's get this trending, and you think I don't care about trending. What I care is just as many people as possible get the message, share the message, and hopefully that can influence some people into changing their driving behavior, because that's what it's about. Just want to make the road safer and stop people like poor Pam having to suffer the consequences of bad drivers.
It's gone quiet for the first time in nearly 3 hours of broadcasting.
Yeah. I've always said I could talk for England about this topic, but sometimes even I stop.
Yeah, well, we're rapidly coming towards the end of our third of our broadcasting today, and it's been quite a day. And it would be good if you could just sort of steel yourself to wrap up today, and then Jon can close the show, because Jon always closes the show.
Jon always closes the show. That's brilliant. How do I wrap up today? I suppose there's really only one way to do that, and that is to sort of say that from the bottom of my heart, I thank everybody that has been involved with today, has helped, has provided support, provided statistical software access, has shared tweets, reposted, given me comments and messages of support and encouragement. I mean, Jenny there has just said you deserve your glass of wine. It's like, thank you. That even that means a lot, because it's just saying recognition of the work that's gone in, I can't thank the people that have been involved enough. Everybody that's been involved has been superb. And whether you've sent one tweet or 20, it's the fact that you've taken the time to take part that means the most to me. I can't do it without you. I can't do it without you. And the people that support the campaign are the people that make the campaign. Otherwise, I'm just an empty voice shouting on social that nobody's listening to. But with another, let me have a look on the stats, with another me and 1,402 other people over the last 30 days have all had something to say about streaming and driving and don't stream and drive, and that blows me away because it's just brilliant. And if we make, if we've hit 23, 24 million people, and hopefully with America as they come online and the West Coast comes in, and hopefully we'll get a few more posts. But if with all that social impression and everything else, we only influence the behavior of one person, well, then it's a total and utter runaway success, because we're never going to do it all in one night. We've got to keep chipping at it. And I've said that I think distracted driving by the use of mobile phones is our new drink drive. And we've been campaigning against drink drive for 50 years. It's still a problem now, but nowhere near as bad as it used to be. And I think in 50 years' time, we'll say people using the phones and driving, unless the cars are fully autonomous by then, which I'm skeptical about. A lot of people would shoot me down for that and say, no, it's going to happen. It's going to happen within 10 years. I don't think it is. But there'll still be some form of distracted driving. And if we start making a difference now, well, then we're making strides in the right direction. And that's what it's about, helping to make our roads safer. And just thank you to everybody that's been involved. I can't thank people enough.
And you have been regaled today by Mr. Jon Upton from Solihull in the Midlands, who will have the last word in a moment. Neil, you're absolutely awesome. I don't know where you get the stamina from to actually organise all this, and just keep it going and make it the successful day that it's been. And thank you for joining us, Peter. It's been good to have you here.
Thank you, Peter. Yep.
Great to see you.
And for the final word, it's over to Mr. Jon Upton in Solihull in the Midlands.
You just had Northumbria Police join in with their operation. Oh, I've forgotten that, Dragoon.
Oh, yeah.
You just had one from a Canadian organisation.
Hooray!
Called Drop It and Drive, which is a awareness education program. It doesn't tell me where it's based, unfortunately. It just says Canada, aimed at youth and communities. And their website is Drop It and Drive. So they're still coming thick and fast, which is really what we want. We want people to keep tweeting, and keep tweeting. But the time is up for us lot now. Time to go and have some tea, I suspect. Or in some person's case, his first decent glass of wine of the day. This is our 4th year. We've really enjoyed it. We started out, quite a while back on yet another platform. But what I'd like to say really is to Neil is we all appreciate his efforts, and hopefully the whole of the UK appreciate his efforts. But this is the end of us going live today. So it's goodbye from me in Solihull. It's goodbye from Stephen in Wiltshire. And up in Cheshire, you've got Neil itself. And I'm afraid I don't know where the gentleman on the left is from. So perhaps
I'm in Lango.
Sorry?
Lancashire.
Lancashire.
Right. It's a small world.
To another Lancashire boy, which is, although Stephen lives in Wiltshire, he's from Burnley. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just up the road in Lango.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
If you hadn't said it was close to Burnley, I would have had a clue where it was. So it's goodbye from him. He may be up there, he may be down there, he may be over there, he may be over there. And it's goodbye from us all.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.